Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Hello, Kitty's Corner. This is a video for you guys. It's going to be like a 2 for Tuesday. And, well, this may or may not make it out to the regular channel eventually. Basically what I've done is I've gone and picked up two knives from Ontario Knife Company. These were knives that I have been on the fence about picking up for many a year, and you'll see why as I'm showing them. But I just never really pulled the trigger and bought either of them. But with Ontario going under and being picked up by Blue Ridge Cutlery, that was basically the deciding factor. I finally said I should go ahead and buy these. I have thought about buying them for so long, and I have not bought them. And you know, in 3 or 4 years, I'll probably look back and go, why didn't I buy those two knives? Because I've been thinking about them for so long. And so that's why I picked them up. And there's a couple, there's a whole thought process going on with me when I was doing this. And one of the biggest ones was the fact that a similar knife to this I have picked up in the past, and that was the Ontario Rat 1. And that turned out to be a counterfeit. I should have known it was a counterfeit when I bought it, because the price was better than it should have been. It wasn't great, but it was better than it should have been. And right after I bought it, I looked at it and go, oh crap, this thing is coming from China. Why is an Ontario Knife Company knife coming from China? And sure enough, as soon as it came here, everything about it looked like Ontario, except for the fact that the quality just wasn't there. And so it was obviously that it was a counterfeit that I had bought. And that's really the main reason I thought, all right, buy these now from a reputable dealer. Go ahead and pay the list price. As long as you know it's a reputable dealer you're buying them from, chances are they're not going to be a counterfeit. And my fear is that in the future, especially 3 or 4 years down the road, I would not be surprised if about half of the Ontario knives that you find on the market are going to be counterfeits, unless Blue Ridge decides to hook up with somebody and start producing them here in the United States or somewhere. That's just my thought in my brain, is that you're going to see all sorts of new old stock Ontario knives, and what they're going to be are probably counterfeits, because people are going to want them. In any case, that was my thinking behind why I went ahead and grabbed these two now, because these are two knives that I have been looking at getting for a long time, but just never really did. Now, before I go on with these knives, which are original, you know, genuine Ontario knife products, I want to show you this one here. Notice the Ontario Knife Company knives. And this box, notice the slight difference in colors, a slight difference in the way the wording is on the box and everything. I think a lot of people would notice that right away and go, oh, that is definitely a counterfeit. Notice also here, OntarioRat.com, and then on the other side, OntarioKnife.com. This one has the caution, and then on the back side, Ontario Knife Company, 26 Empire, blah, 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 Franklinville, New York, made in Taiwan, made in Taiwan. The difference being is this one up here is a counterfeit. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Ontario knives, and this is the first one you're ever picking up or something, you may not notice all those differences. And that's what they count on with the counterfeiters. They are not doing this simply because they're trying to offer you something a little less expensive. They're trying to rip you off. There are people out there who are just fine with the counterfeits. Well, you shouldn't be. you flat out shouldn't be. They are stealing somebody else's product, and they are out there trying their best to rip people off. And that's what they basically did with me. I will be the first to admit that I should have done a bit better job looking into it before I did it, before I bought it. But I was like, you know what? I always hear about the Ontario Rat 1. Let me go ahead and buy an Ontario Rat 1. And that's what I decided to do several years ago. It was the very first Ontario rat knife that I was going to buy, one out of Taiwan. And what I did is I went to eBay, you know, Evil Bay, whatever you want to call it, because I don't trust AliExpress at all. And what I did is my usual, which is I did, you know, Ontario Rat 1, and then I said buy it now, and then went for the lowest price with shipping. And this is the one that came up. And the difference between this one and the next one in line was about $10. So it wasn't a dramatic drop in price or anything, but it was a drop in price. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's not a bad deal. And they had it on sale. That was the other thing that they had, you know. It was $10, but they had marked it down. It was like a limited time sale. So they were selling it, you know, at a lower price for a limited length of time. Otherwise, it had the regular list price. And you do see that even with legitimate sellers online. They will occasionally discount a knife because they've got overstock. And so I went and bought the knife. The box was in perfect shape when it showed up. And I opened it up, I got it out. It's like, man, that looks really great. And then it did have a pocket clip on there, but the pocket clip, I wanted to move it. It was in whatever, I think it was in right hand tip down carry. I wanted to flip it over to left hand tip up carry. And when I took the torque screw, loosened it and moved it, the screws stripped automatically. So the G10 handle was crap. And, you know, I bought it because of the lime green. Now, opening it up, you see there, Model 1, OS8, Taiwan. And notice how Taiwan is spelled. And then, you know, Randall Adventure Training. So this is definitely trying to pass itself off as a Rat 1. It's not a Rat 1. But it looked very close to it when I first got it. And for a person who had never had one, never really held one or anything else, it was easy to get ripped off with this. And that's why counterfeits suck. There are plenty of people out there who go, well, they're fine as far as I'm concerned. I like counterfeits because they're less expensive and they cut just fine. Well, it's like, no, even if they do cut just fine and everything else, somewhere along the line, somebody got ripped off with this, and these people ripped me off. And a lot of other people have been ripped off by counterfeits out there. It's not what they wanted to buy, it's what they ended up buying. So anyone out there who thinks that counterfeits is just fine doesn't realize just how much damage it's actually doing to the knife industry. I hang on to this one because, well, I'm not going to pass it on to somebody else. I'm not going to rip off somebody else and say, even if I'm telling them, well, it's a counterfeit. Yeah, they buy the counterfeit, and then what happens after that? Do they pass it on to somebody else as a genuine? Very possible. And this is what could very well end up happening in the near future with Ontario Knives. You will probably see a lot more counterfeits coming out, and they're going to be selling at the usual list price of all the Ontario knives. So be very careful with who you're buying them from, and make sure you're buying them from a trusted, reputable dealer that you have used in the past. That's what I did with these knives here. I bought them from somebody who I trust, a company that I trust, and a reputable dealer. I would not purchase them used, because someone could sell this as used, and you might oh, well, maybe that's the way the box was marked at one time, or they will only show you the box in one picture or something like that. They won't show you the full thing. And, you know, could that just be a different year of production? Possibly, but it's not. So be very careful when you're out there looking for your Ontarios at this moment, and definitely in the near future. There's going to be a lot more counterfeit showing up. In any case, rant over. Let's move on to the two that I did pick up and I know are genuine. And first up is right here, and this is the Rat 2. This was supposed to be a Rat 1. I will show it purely for size comparison. But let's get this one open. One of my most used knives, an X-Acto knife. And I'm not kidding. All right. Get this open. And now we have a Rat 2, and the compared in size to a counterfeit Rat 1. You can see that it's about an inch shorter and a lot less chunky and hefty. This is a much better pocket carry. This one obviously has a larger blade. And what I bought it as in was the OD green with the blackout blade, and you got the double thumb studs. Man, these things, I mean, when you start looking at this, even compared to the one, the counterfeit, all sorts of things start showing up that tell you right away that this is not the same thing. So anyone who is familiar with Ontario knives will notice this is a counterfeit right away. Those who are not familiar with it could easily be fooled. Having never had a Rat 1, I would have not known. And we see there the pocket clip. Notice how Taiwan is on there now. Notice that there is not a capital W. And we got the nice blade edge there. Model 2 LC8. Really nice looking blade. Overall length of this thing should be right around 7 inches, if I'm correct. Well, almost dropped an old hickory pig sticker into my thigh here. That would have been painful. Yeah, actually slightly over 7 inches overall, about 7 1/8 or so. I'm sure people out there know all the measurements. Let's measure this from the thumb stud, which actually is almost the blade edge length, which comes in at about 2 5/8 inches. Overall is just like around 2 7/8 inch, it looks like. But really, thumb stud gets in the way, so right there, blade edge and everything else. I think it's about 4 1/8 inches closed. Yeah, if you're a lefty, you can close the liner lock if you get used to it. Yeah, 4 1/8 inches overall there. 4-position pocket clip, which it can also be removed. You got a pretty decent detent on it. I think these have been reviewed so many times I really don't have to go into great detail with it. The reason I wanted it is because, well, I knew the the basic size of the Rat 1, and that was a much bigger knife than I wanted. The Rat 2 was something that I have been looking at ever since getting that counterfeit, and just never really pulled the trigger until now. I'm glad I did. Let's take a look at the other knife in the box here, which is a little bit bigger. Now this is giving more information about Ontario with the 1889, which is when the company was first formed. It's just your basic black box that they have a lot of knives in. And the one I picked up is the SP2. Why the SP2? Well, that's pretty obvious if you're familiar with the channel, and that's because this is the basically the Spec Plus version of the Air Force survival knife, and I have just about every other Air Force survival knife made, including the 2 by Ontario. So this is the Ontario's 499 Air Force Survival Knife, which is, you know, the classic, the iconic one that's been around for a while. You've got the false edge up here, or sharpened swedge, whichever way you want to call it, and then you know, the classic blade with the saw teeth up on top, and the leather handle, stacked leather handle, and the hexagon pommel here, which can be used as a hammer, and the little holes there for, so you can tie this onto a stick to turn it into a spear. Then we have the other version here, which is the ASEC. This is the modern one. This is the one that Ontario produced. You got the full flat grind going on, some aggressive teeth there, a swedge. This is not sharpened, and then you've got the serrated edge, and then the fine edge up front. The overmolded rubber handle for to protect the hand when you're cutting through an electric fence or something like that. The heavy pommel with the glass breaker tip there, also known as a skull crusher tip, and the handle that is more indexed, so you know which way the blade is sitting. And then you've got the holes here for, again, attaching it to a spear or something like that. That is part of the ASEC system. This is the sheath that comes with it, the nylon sheath with the throat, and then the other tool, which is the for cutting the parachute line. You have a small sharpening stone here and a screwdriver tip down here. So that is the ASEC system. And then also I do have, I think I still have the 499 mod, unless I gave that to one of my sons, which I might have done. I don't know for certain. I did not see it laying around though, so might be hiding, or I might have given it to one of my sons. The 499 mod is basically the same as this, except this swedge up here is a swedge, it's not sharpened. Let's take a look now at the SP2, which is the Spec Plus Air Force knife. First, you have the nylon sheath. I think what I'm going, this, I don't know what this was supposed to be. If this was supposed to be leg tie, it fails miserably. It's way too short. It is just like a 12-inch tie-down strap. You do have a MOLLE compatible sheath though, so you can actually strap this into a MOLLE vest, or you can also wear it on a belt, which is cool. And then you have two strap downs for the handle, so that the knife is actually jump certified. Notice this one here, it also has two straps. That makes the knife capable of being jump certified. That's you basically have to have two securing straps to hold the knife into the sheath, so that when you jump out of an airplane or something, if one fails, the other doesn't, the knife doesn't come out of the sheath. That's what makes the sheath jump certified, these two snaps here. 1889, 1889 again. You do have a hole here for a lanyard cord. Maybe that's what this is, for a lanyard cord. I have to tie it up there. In any case, decent enough snaps. This one is good. I really like that one more so than the top one here, and I'll show you why in a sec. Let's get the knife out first. Notice this can be moved to either side, which means you can snap it this side or this side, and that's because the knife can go into the sheath for right hand carry, snap it this way, or left hand carry, and you would snap it on the other side over here. I had it set up for left hand carry, I'm left handed. There are no holes for tying this into a spear. They dispense with that nonsense. You do have the nice finger groove up here. You could also call it a swedge, not a swedge. You could also call it a fuller. I call it a finger groove because of how wide it is and the fact that it allows you to easily grasp the blade. It is a type of fuller. This again is made more like the ASEC in that there is no sharpened edge up here. This is just a swedge, but it does help get to the point there. And then you have the blade sharpened down here. Definitely could use some sharpening right out of the factory. I'm not too concerned about that right now. See there, SP2 Survival, and you have the saw teeth here. Not the world's greatest saw, everyone knows that. It will cut through wood, and but it does take a little bit of an effort. And you have the little eagle pommel down here, and that does feel hard. You have a brass lanyard tube going through here too, which is pretty cool. Handle feels really good. I would not say it's indexed, other than right there. That little bump there will let you know if you got the knife upside down. You do have a bit of an S-guard going on here, so that's pretty good. And that is a little soft there. I don't know if that'll break or not, but it is definitely a heavy polymer. Same here. So I do not know how that is done. I don't know how strong it is or anything like that. It should be a full tang from what I understand. They did move over to a 1075 carbon steel for this one. Originally they were 1095, so if you find older ones, they might be 1095. They really did not when they went from 1075 to 1095 to 1075, there was not a big announcement or anything. So I do not know exactly when they made that move. It was probably about 10 years ago though. Originally the SP2 was in 1095, but they did switch to 1075, and it's been that way for a while. You have the nice grooves in the over molded rubber there though, and it does feel good. It does feel comfortable. I'm kind of happy I picked it up. Size wise, well, I think it's a bigger knife. Definitely a bigger knife than your typical Air Force survival knife, both in length of handle. Notice the length of handle and the blade length. The blade length is definitely longer too. There's the blade length and the handle length. So this knife comes in right at 10 inches, I believe. Yeah, this one comes in right at 10 inches with a blade that is 5 inches overall and a handle that is 4.5 inches overall. This one has a full, the handle I would say is 5 inches, and you got a blade that comes in right under 5.5 inches. So not a bad knife. Kind of a chunky monkey here. Definitely larger. Yeah, definitely larger. 10.5, maybe a little more. And compared to the ASEC, the handle on the ASEC is about the same size, as you can see there. Same thickness too, very chunky, but blade length is very much diminished. So I can see why people like the SP2. Not a bad choice for the survival knife. I know the folks out there who are all crazy about survival knives and everything else will just, there is so much hate in the survivalist community towards this knife that it is unbelievable. But in any case, a classic design that apparently worked well enough for 50 odd years, went through the Vietnam War just fine and then evolved into this and continued to be used and is still seen in SEER training today. Somebody must like it. The survivalist experts obviously don't, but somebody must like it. And well, it's just a classic design, so I figured time to go ahead and pick up the SP2 while it is still available, and I know it's not a counterfeit. So that's why I went ahead and grabbed it. In any case, hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a bit of a ramble, a little long. Chances are that you're going to get to see it first, and then in a week or two, I will just go ahead and throw this out to the rest of the community. But you get to see it first at least. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.